Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the December 1st, 2025 work session of the Haverford Township Board of Commissioners. Tonight's meeting gives us the opportunity to preview and discuss agenda items scheduled for next week's regular meeting and to hear updates on key township matters. Begin the meeting with a roll call. I'll ask our Township Manager, Dave Berman, to now take the roll.
Commissioner Gondek.
Present.
Commissioner Forsty Grubb.
Here.
Commissioner Cavender.
Here.
Commissioner Holmes.
Here.
Commissioner Quinn.
Here.
Commissioner Hart.
Here.
Next Commissioner. Commissioner McCluskey.
Here.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Here. Thank you. Now ask everyone to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by our Chief of Police, John Viola. Chief. Thank you. As outlined on the agenda, I'll begin the meeting with Commissioner Committee updates. I invite any commissioners who wish to share updates from their respective committees to do so at this time. Are there any Commissioner Committee updates?
President Trombetta, give an update on our zoning update project. Township staff and our zoning update consultant have been working on the structural reorganization of our zoning ordinances, as well as updates to definitions. It is anticipated a comprehensive draft will be ready for review early in 2026. I want to reiterate, nothing in these first stage draft proposals will involve any recommendations for substantive changes in our zoning ordinance. Along with these reviews, there have been a number of targeted shareholder interviews, including with the township solicitor, zoning officer, planning commission chair, and zoning board chair. It is expected that we'll be able to announce dates for the next public meeting sometime early next year.
Thank you, Commissioner Hart. Any further updates?
Can I ask a question about the zoning? So this version is just going to do the definitions so that we have a sense of everything being consistent. And are you familiar with what those are going to look like, how many there are going to be, how long that section of the ordinance will be that we'll be voting on?
We're going to be doing more than just the definitions. It's a reformatting of the entire ordinance. So the ordinance, all of what's in there, it will still be in there, but it will look different. So rather than having everything laid out pages and pages, there's tables for the area and bulk regulations in districts, for example. Mm-hmm. There may be some graphics that are added to help just show and demonstrate some of the definitions. The definitions right now list is like 30 pages long, but we are trying to figure out what needs to remain in, what else is actually mentioned and not defined that needs to be defined. So it's not that we're changing any definitions necessarily, but if it's an unnecessary definition, some things are just clear, right? They don't need to be defined. And then other things really are missing their definitions. So what is in there that comes up over and over and needs a definition?
Right.
That's what we're adding for definitions.
Okay. And is there going to be, I don't know if this will be the township or a different firm or this firm, FHI, formerly known as IMEG or whatever they are we going to have a version on the website that's really searchable, really user-friendly, makes it possible to sort through everything that's in there? I know E360 seems to work pretty well, but is that part of the consideration as they look at the zoning ordinance?
Are you asking about for the drafts or
no, for the
final product? It will be on eCode 360. That's the only interface that I really know of that does what it does. So it will all, when it does all get changed out and updated, it will all go back in. And eCode does do that process for you, and it'll all get updated, and you can search it just like you do right now.
So when you say format, though, where do we see the format, I guess, if it's on 360? Right? Do we have a printed version? I'm sorry to have elementary questions, but when you said you're
okay.
going to reformat it, I just wondered how that was going to show up.
The reformatting will go through and be updated on eCode 360 as well. We can print that out, but generally it'll stay digitized. The tables and everything that will happen in this first version of phase 1 is almost like a trial run where we will reformat, we will update definitions, and we will take it through the adoption process so that everybody knows what implementation actually looks like. That's a goal that we have. One of the things I will mention, though, there is a planning firm that is partnered and was always part of this process. It's called BFJ Planning. They are the planners that are also looking at like the definitions alongside of Adam and his team at FHI Studio. So there's a lot of eyes that are looking at it that are really trained at this. It's not just one, and there's quite a few experienced planners that are looking at it.
All right. Yeah, I'm just getting a sense of the product and what it's going to look like. Thank you.
Sure.
If I could just clarify, with regards to the phase 1, which is really just taking what the existing code is and basically reorganizing it to make it more user-friendly, which is the stepping stone to phase 2, which is actually substantive revision. My understanding was that there was nothing to vote on after phase 1, that it was basically just a cleanup of a draft. Are we or are we not going to be voting on something after phase 1?
So our goal is to have you adapt that draft and that formatted look just so that everybody is on board with it. There aren't any substantive changes, so we don't probably, this is a question for John Walco, but I don't know that we technically have to run it through the entire process. We're going to for good measure. And also, those changes might be shocking to look at, so we were wanting to do that up front so that everybody's used to the reformatted version before we actually make red line changes in the document.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so, okay, thank you.
Madam President,
Yes, Commissioner Holmes.
I think I understand exactly what you're saying, and I for the benefit of my colleagues, if you look at our current zoning ordinance, you go to Article 7. So you go to Chapter 182, and there are some general provisions. It's kind of outlined, but then you get into Article 7, and you basically have 33 sections that have just been added on as we've gone along. So 707 is off-street parking regulations, and 709 is conversion of dwellings to non-residential uses. Satellite antennas follows continuing care facilities for the elderly. That's the kind of Byzantine format that we're trying to get rid of here. Turn this into a readable, into something, E-code, the form versus kind of E-code. E-code is what's going to put it here, and somebody can put in a word and they'll find that word where it exists here. But you want somebody who's actually reading this ordinance to imagine where something ought to be, and that's where it will be, right? That's how.
Exactly. So just another thing to highlight what the reformatting will do. So there are actual use regulations that might apply to all residential uses, like a home-based occupation. And then there are uses that are only going to be found like in a certain district, like an institutional district versus like an educational use versus a commercial district. So all of those are just in there with each other, like you described. And what we're going to do is if it is in a certain district, it will be in a certain article. If it is applicable to all residential district, like that will be called out. It will make a lot more sense when we're done with the reformatting, if that helps.
No, it's hugely helpful. I mean, this will be set up in the way that you expect a statute to be set up, as opposed to something that was just built over time, like some crazy Frankenstein regulation, which is what a lot of these look like. And the goal of modernization, first and foremost, is to make things predictable and findable. So the idea then is to take our existing zoning ordinance and just reformat it and have all of us confirm that it had everything that it had in it. We adopt that newly stated old Haverford ordinance, and then we start to make changes.
Correct.
Got it.
Further questions or comments regarding Commissioner Hart's update? Any other Commissioner Committee updates at this time? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on. So I now invite our Chief of Police, John Viola, to provide an update on recent police department activities in the township.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good evening, Commissioners. Monthly chief reports for November 2025. Criminal arrests, we had 16 for juvenile arrests, 211 citations, 11 non-traffic citations, 34 written warnings, 458 automated parking tickets. We had a burglary attempt at 300 block of Northrop. I'm sorry, this was a burglary. A vacant home was entered, and the criminals actors stole copper pipe from the basement. Now, this house has been unoccupied for quite a long time, and the people just came back and checked it. We had motor vehicle theft, 700 block of Humphreys. A 2022 black Ram was taken from the driveway. I had reported this previously. They probably had the key fob from the vehicle in the past when they entered and they came back and took the vehicle. That happened in September. The vehicle was captured on our Viper system at 12:30 near Lacanal Hospital. So the vehicle's still missing. And the Viper system is that camera system we had installed that's through the region. We received report of a suspicious male over by Olympic Avenue. It turned out it was a stolen Honda Odyssey in the neighborhood. The officers found that, and then the suspect was then spotted in Kohl's shoplifting, and they took off, believe it or not, got on a bus. I think he may have been arrested at this point. Attempted theft from autos, 200 block of Friendship. A unlocked vehicle was entered and a firearm was stolen. And we had a bicycle theft. A racer hybrid bike found at $1,100 taken on Tunbridge Road. 4 canine sniffs, Radnor, Springfield, Ridley, and Marple. And then we had the canine competition on November the 9th. And I'd like to report that Officer Mike Cahill from Philadelphia with his partner Ace won first place. So we also, everyone knows we had the basketball game, and hopefully we'll have some help next year. Thank you. Any questions?
This is the time of year we see lots of things stolen from the port.
That's correct, yes.
So do we have a safe place where we can deliver it if they're not home? I think we've had that in the past.
My suggestion would be that, when you get, if you're not going to be home, have it delivered to a different address, because we all see the delivery trucks out night and day, and everybody's shopping. If you saw statistics last week, as far as the online shopping on Black Friday, it was incredible. So tis the season for thefts. So everybody should beware, watch your deliveries, have it delivered to a different address if you work during the day or not home.
Thanks, Chief.
Chief, there was an article in the Inquirer, I think last month, about some car thefts in Philadelphia where they're actually
Yes.
key fobs in the house. And have we had any of that?
Let me say, we haven't seen that yet.
Yeah.
Every time I say that, what happens? We end up with something. But yeah, this is something new that started that they get close to that with some sort of machinery or that locks onto the key fob in the house. They're able to then unlock the car and drive away. It happens very quickly. So what I have read myself, because I'm not that knowledgeable on it, that a lot of people leave their keys by the front door, by the back door on a table. So the suggestion is, from what I have researched, is take your keys, move them away from the outside of the house and put them closer to the inside, because these pieces of equipment have short spans to pick up the.
There's also apparently these Faraday cases that, I know, they cost about $10, so you can put them in.
Yes, you can wrap them in tinfoil also. Same thing. So that keeps the source from going outside.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, Chief. So we'll now move on to the items scheduled for consideration on the Monday, December 8th, 2025 regular meeting of the Board of Commissioners. Again, next week, the Board of Commissioners will consider 3 promotions within the Haverford Township Police Department. The board will consider the proposed promotion of Sergeant T.J. Long to Deputy Chief of Police, as well as the promotions of Patrol Officer Kimberly Huganier and Patrol Officer Lawrence Howard to the rank of Sergeant. All promotions will be effective January 2nd, 2026. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues regarding these promotions at this time? Hearing none. Next week, the Board of Commissioners will also hear and accept the Civil Service Commission's list of entry-level patrol officer candidates. With this list in hand, the board may move forward with making up to 6 appointments effective January 2nd, 2026. Are there any questions, comments from my colleagues regarding the acceptance of the commission list or appointments at this time? Hearing none. Board also looks forward to the presentation of 1 proclamation next week to recognize our 2025 Adopt a Trail program partners. We look forward to having some of the partners present to accept the proclamation on Monday evening. But do any of my colleagues have any questions or comments regarding this proclamation at this time?
Madam President,
Yes.
I will report next week on on the proclamation that we provided at the Boy Scout event. Was between our meetings, so
Great.
mention that on this next week. And nice event it was.
Perfect. We'll make note of that. Thank you. Any further questions or comments regarding proclamations? Then we'll move on. Next week, the board will consider adopting the 2026 budget. I'll open the floor to ask my colleagues if they have any questions, comments, or concerns at this time. Commissioner Forsti-Graf?
Yes. First of all, I would like to thank the township manager and our assistant manager, Amy Cuthbertson, for all the work they did to create the budget along with the department heads. I know I was not here on November 17th for the preliminary budget meeting because I was away for my mother's celebration of life, but I did watch about an hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes of the budget meeting on our YouTube channel. And if you have not had a chance to do that, I would highly recommend you do so because our township manager gave a very thorough and clear presentation on the timeline for creating the 2026 budget, how every member of the departments were involved in creating their particular budget, and how various citizen board and commissioners were also consulted. And then, of course, the members of the Finance Committee of the Board of Commissioners worked very, very hard to create the budget, and I want to thank them for that work. It really does show in the 2026 budget, which uses every efficiency to keep the township services at their current excellent level without raising taxes beyond the current rate of inflation. It was also impressive how the revenue was outlined for, how the township collects revenue for a built-out community, and also what the fixed costs are for running a township like ours, which is a wonderful place to live because of our amazing services, our parks and recreation, our library, and our incredible police department, EMS, and fire department. So we're very lucky to be here. I did have a couple questions I wanted to ask about that. One question I have is, in the capital projects proposal, the proposed capital projects, there was a number of things that were going to be happening at the CREC, including a walking track, the CREC fitness equipment, CREC deck refurbishment, and CREC exterior painting. I was wondering if I could get a little more information on those, about what was exactly going on in the CREC so we can maintain that great facility.
Yes, so the CREC is probably, 13 years old now. The walking track surface is in need of replacement, and so that's one of the larger items on the list. There is original exercise equipment in the studio downstairs, about 8 to 10 pieces. That's all original, and is in, it's reached the end of its useful life. And finally, the deck off of the community room on the first floor is a beautiful deck. Most of it is that Trex, which lasts a long time, but the underneath of it is supported by wood, and a lot of that wood we learned late this year, just a couple of months ago, has deteriorated to the point where that deck is now closed and is in need of, all of that wood is in need of replacement. So we have Pannoni preparing bid documents. We're hopeful to get that reopened by early spring.
Okay, that sounds really terrific. The next question I have is about ARPA expenditures. The American Rescue Plan Act gave the township over $19 million to do all sorts of things that would benefit the township, and this was passed in March of 2021 and signed by President Biden. So I would like, if we could get a quick overview of all the ways that the ARPA funds have helped us in the township, so we didn't have to use capital funds for some of these projects.
I think it was earlier this year, our assistant township manager did a thorough presentation, and I think it's best if we review that now, if you don't mind.
Sure, and Mr. Berman is correct. If you remember back, I believe it was February, maybe we did a comprehensive recap of everything that 19.8 million was able to accomplish for us, and it really was a lot. Off the top of my head, the couple of things that come to mind, we were able to invest over $3 million in our parks. We were able to purchase over $3 million in fire apparatus. Almost $1 million in police vehicles, body cameras, a lot of the tools that the police are using. We repaved the public works yard. That was another $500,000. We invested about $800,000 in heavy equipment purchases for the public works department. If you recall, we used approximately, I think approaching $1 million, between $800,000 and $1 million on the stadium locker room project that we would have had to borrow additional monies for. We also utilized, I believe, in excess of $2.5 million for the library. So if we just took those major, and the sanitary and storm infrastructure, which was also a big chunk, I think that was over $2 million that we used of the ARPA money for those projects. So all of those projects, just the ones I've mentioned, they're all really classify as your basic government services that we would have had to borrow for to accomplish all of those things over the next several years. So that $19.8 million really saved us a lot in borrowing costs, interest costs over the next 10 to 30 years, however long we would have had to borrow for. So yeah, I think we really put it to good use. We put it to a lot of general government services. We did not use it for operations, which is really what it was not intended to be used for operations. It was used to make some transformative changes, to make some capital improvements that we might not have been able to do. And I think we're all pretty pleased of what we were able to accomplish with it.
And thank you for your close overview of all those ARPA funds, because I remember voting on them over and over again over the years. And I like to hear that word transformative, because it really did establish us in lots of different ways that we couldn't have done otherwise. So thanks for that ARPA overview. I don't have any other questions except, again, to reiterate my thanks and to urge everyone to watch the YouTube from November 17th so you can have a better understanding of how the township is spending your money as wisely and effectively as possible to keep us strong for the future.
Thank you, Commissioner Forresty-Grout. Are there further questions or comments from my colleagues at this time? Again, this is about the 2026 budget. Okay, hearing none. Next week, the Board of Commissioners will consider 4 ordinances associated with the adoption of the 2026 budget. This evening, we'll go over each ordinance individually for discussion. Beginning with ordinance number P17-2025. This is the second reading of an ordinance establishing a fee of $295 for calendar year 2026 for the purpose of collecting refuse and recyclable materials at residential dwelling units. As noted during the preliminary budget presentation, This annual trash fee of $2.95 is a $12 increase from the current year, or $1 a month increase. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues regarding this ordinance at this time? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to ordinance number P18, 2025. This is a second reading again of an ordinance establishing a fee of $5.15 per 1,000 gallons of water used by properties connected to the public sewage system of township as a sewer rental or charge for the calendar year 2026. As discussed during the preliminary budget meeting, there's no rate change recommended in 26. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues regarding this ordinance at this time? Hearing none, we move on to ordinance number 30-2025. This is a first and final reading of the 2026 tax levy, establishing the Township of Haverford property tax rate for the year 2026 at 4.695 mils. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues regarding this ordinance at this time? Okay, we'll move on to ordinance number 3031-2025. This again is a first and final reading of an ordinance. It appropriates funds for the specific purpose of financing the municipal government for the year 2026, including all taxes, fees, service charges, and other revenue sources provided within all funds. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues at this time regarding this ordinance? Great. We'll move on to appointments then. So next week, the board will consider making 2 appointments. One resident to fill a vacancy of the Library Board of Trustees for a term ending December 2027. Additionally, the board will consider approving a professional services agreement with Kathleen Thomas, Esquire, to serve as the Township's Act 511 Independent Hearing Officer. Are there any questions or comments regarding these appointments at this time? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the approval of warrants as detailed in the public agenda packet. They will be detailed in the public agenda packet that will be published prior to Monday's meeting. Any questions or comments at this time regarding that? Okay, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Before we begin review of the consent agenda, I'd like to remind my colleagues that and the public that these items will be considered with a single vote at next week's meeting. Each item is outlined in greater detail in the public agenda packet. We'll take time this evening to review them individually. If any member of the board would like an item to be considered separately, they may request its removal either tonight or at next week's meeting so that it may be addressed independently. There are currently 5 items listed under the consent agenda for next week, so we'll go over them now. Starting with under the consent agenda, the board will consider approval of the minutes from our November 10th, 2025 meeting of the Board of Commissioners. At this time, do my colleagues have any questions, comments, or proposed edits to those minutes? Okay, moving on. Next week, under the consent agenda, the board will consider approval of the minutes from our November 17th, 2025 preliminary budget meeting of the Board of Commissioners. At this time, do my colleagues have any questions, comments, or proposed edits to those minutes? Okay, hearing none. Under item C in the consent agenda, the board will consider the approval of a contract award for the Darby Creek Southern Trail Extension. Do my colleagues have any questions or comments regarding this contract award? Under item D in the consent agenda, the board will consider awarding a contract for Vermont and Glendale intersection improvements. Do my colleagues have any questions or comments regarding this contract award?
Yeah, I do. Just because I get a lot of people asking me what the final outcome is, because I know that there were several possibilities for that intersection. Could we just get a brief description of what we're actually doing there?
And you're right, there was the grant application. It's a multimodal grant issued by the state of Pennsylvania, where the grant the trail, or the trail from the skating and the footbridge. You not hearing me okay?
I think you need a microphone, please. It's more for the recording than it is for the folks here.
So the original grant application, the premise was to take that kind of oddly Y-figured intersection. Because remember, you come down Glendale and you have to To turn up Burmont, you got to make a sharp turn. It's sort of shaped like a Y more than a T. Turning it into a traditional T intersection, unsignalized, and improve pedestrian and bicycle access, including a trail down to the tennis courts. PennDOT then said, hey, let's look at some alternatives to take that even further, one of which was a roundabout, another one which was to signalize the intersection. Neither of which are bad ideas, but both which create seven-figure funding gaps, because the grant was for $1 million. So at the end, after that evaluation, the project is back to its original concept, a T intersection, pushed further to the creek, obviously, to get the T, and then a 10-foot wide paved trail over to the tennis court area. And again, the appropriate pedestrian and bicycle facilities right at the intersection.
And do we, at this point in time, and I know that it's still, I mean, we just approved the plan, at some point we're going to do the funding and all that. Do we know like a ballpark of how long that kind of a project's going to take?
So while it took a long time to get out for bid, awarding it in this time of year is a great time to award it, because everything will line up with materials and shot drawing approvals and any work that's not temperature sensitive. I don't think we'll see a shovel in the, we'll have a better idea as we get closer, but I don't think we'll see a shovel in the ground until at least February. And then I would expect the work itself in the right-of-way of the intersections to take about 2-3 months at the most, and then the trail itself, which can be done in parallel, about a month. There also is a footbridge there too, similar, way smaller, but similar in concept to this footbridge, lead time item. So all this work could be done, and that footbridge could be placed crossing that little stream down there. We don't expect it to be too disruptive, because we'll be able to build and then shift traffic. I mean, I'm not gonna say it's perfect, there'll be some disruption, but I don't see it as being overly disruptive.
Thank you.
And we will get way closer on the schedule too. I mean, way more detailed on the schedule.
Thank you.
Is the pedestrian crossing directly across from where the trail will, so the pedestrian crossing across Glendale Road, does that meet up with?
The trail takes you from the tennis courts across that little trib, and then it'll drop you over by the intersection.
Okay.
Yep. And I believe, if I remember correctly, we set the pedestrian crossing up to go across Burma and then across Glendale. That's correct.
Further questions or comments? All right, moving on. So next week, under item E on the consent agenda, the board will consider approving a $43,221.04 contract with Bearcom Communications. This purchase will install an emergency responder communication enhancement system in the Township Administration Building. Any questions or comments from my colleagues at this time? Okay, that exhausts the items under the consent agenda. Moving on, we'll move on to review 5 ordinances that will be under consideration next week. Starting with P14-2025. This is a second reading of a lease agreement with Chef & Sons doing business as Have-A-Burger for a portion of property at the stadium. Again, this is a second reading, but do any of my colleagues have any questions or comments at this time? Hearing none. We'll move on to 2 ordinances, P15-2025 and P16-2025. These are both second readings of traffic ordinances, one for stop signs on Dill Road at Concord Avenue, one for a stop sign on Vincent Road at Bryan Street. Both are in the 9th Ward. Any questions or comments regarding these ordinances at this time? Okay. Then I'll move on to P19-2025 and P20-2025, both traffic ordinances and their first readings, both of which are special purpose parking spots, one in front of 2922 Berkeley Road, another in front of 2401 Clover Lane. Do any of my colleagues have any questions or comments regarding these traffic ordinances? Great. Hearing none, we'll move on to resolutions. We'll begin with Resolution 2468-2025. This is the 2026 fee schedule for the next year. Do any of my colleagues have any comments or questions regarding this resolution and the fee schedule as outlined in our agenda packet at this time?
I have a couple of questions.
Please.
There are lower fees for the stadium advertising, and is the idea behind this to get more advertisers, or? Yes.
Amy, do you want to comment or do you want me to comment? Yeah, the advertising prices had been kind of where they were at for a while. And we had unutilized advertising space. So the thought process was to make it a little bit more affordable and thereby generate more interest, which would give us overall more income.
Okay. And then there's an increase in the synthetic turf rental fees for township organizations, and I'm gathering that indicates the cost of replacing the turf, and this has become more costly.
Yes, these fees are the fees that we put aside with each rental for the replacement down the road, so that's correct.
Thank you.
Further questions or comments from my colleagues regarding the fee schedule?
Where's the stadium fees?
Under letter S, indexed by letter S.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, moving on.
Make sure it didn't go down after I bought my sign.
Perfect. Thank you. Any further questions or comments regarding the fee schedule? All right. We'll move on to Resolution 2469-2025. Next week, we'll consider this resolution, which is an approval of the minor subdivision and land development plan for Cadence Development Partners for a 2-lot subdivision and land development, including constructing stormwater management at 38 Fulmer Avenue in Ward 2. And it looks like we already have our guest up ready to share. So that's great.
anxious.
Please introduce yourself, tell us your title, and
Perfect.
take it away.
Good evening.
Thank you.
So my name's Sean Colleen. I'm one of the partners for Cadence Development Partners. Back in September, purchased 38 Fulmer Avenue. And actually, let's see if I can figure this out. I'm gonna pull up the site plan because I think it's a little bit easier to explain what we're doing. So if you look here at the site plan, what's happening here is we are purchasing an existing twin building, which is the 2-story brick and frame on the right-hand side. So we're purchasing that. We've already made the purchase back in September, doing a full gut renovation of that existing property. Adjacent to that property is lot number 2, which our goal is to do the minor subdivision. The sort of goofy thing with this whole thing is that the existing nonconformity exists with the twin. So we needed to go and get a zoning variance to do the subdivision, although the subdivision in the new property is conforming by right. So it's a little bit tricky, but we would have had to actually tear down or replace the front facade of the twin building to get it to conform. So the zoning hearing board granted us the variance, and then we actually had 2 subsequent waivers that we had to apply for. One had to do with the width of the driveway, and the other had to do with the sidewalk on Lanark Avenue. So it was those 2 waivers that we applied for, which were granted by the Planning Commission. That was last month. So that's sort of like high level. I don't know how much detail you guys need or want, but happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Do my colleagues have any questions?
I do have a question about the waiver that was granted for the sidewalks. I was wondering if you could explain a little bit more about why you applied for that waiver, given that the township is really trying to focus on pedestrian safety as much as possible.
Sure, absolutely. So there's a couple of different reasons, and I'm not a civil engineer, so I'll do my best to explain them. This condition right here, this picture, this is showing you where the sidewalk would essentially be. This is our property, the corner. This is Lanark and Fulmer. And this, where I'm kind of moving the cursor, this is where the sidewalk would be. There's 2 trees that would be affected. One is a 12-foot spruce, I believe, and the other's an 18-inch or 18-foot cedar at the rear of the property that would have to come down if we did the sidewalk. The other piece to this condition is you can sort of tell that it's sloping up as it goes back toward the ends of the property. If we were to put the sidewalk in and then sort of abruptly stop it where the other property's line begins, it would create a condition where it would almost be like a bank, like it would just stop. Like we can get grade, but they would have an issue. So essentially it would be like they'd be pushing a stroller into a hill, essentially. So Pensy Trail obviously is on the other side. Trying to think if there was any other reasons that were brought up. But no, that was really it. It was the trees, it was the slope, and the trail across the street.
I'd like to direct a question to our Director of Community Development. Isn't there anything in our township code about sidewalks being required for development or redevelopment in a subdivision? What that is?
Our subdivision and land development does require sidewalks.
And this would fall into that category, correct?
Correct, and that's why they've requested the waiver for relief from that provision.
Just to clarify, well,
And we can ask for a fee in lieu of that, for that waiver, correct?
We can.
So what would be the process of that?
So we would ask the developer's engineer to provide a cost estimate for that fee in lieu of installation and construction of the sidewalk. That would then be reviewed by our township engineer for accuracy. And then a number would be settled upon and entered into our resolution for your consideration when you approve the land development.
I would like to propose we explore that option since it's very important to establish, to use that method for ensuring pedestrian safety in other areas as deemed appropriate by the township engineer and township staff.
and just to clarify, the planning commission doesn't grant the waivers. They make recommendations, but it's this board that.
Sure, absolutely. Yep.
And to further clarify, this is a circumstance where the planning commission has indicated, they suggest that we accept the waiver.
They suggested that we accept the waiver, but they didn't make any suggestions on whether or not we would look for a fee in lieu. They just made a recommendation in regards to the waiver.
Further questions or comments?
And just, it looks to me that based on.
Oh, can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
Are we talking about sidewalk and curb?
No, it was just sidewalk.
Commissioner, do you yield the floor to Commissioner Gondak?
Yeah, I'm done.
Thank you.
I just want to also clarify, my understanding is that after the shade tree looked at this, you're going to be removing already removing a bunch of trees from that property and not putting all of them back. And so you've agreed to a fee in lieu for the trees.
That's
already.
correct.
Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So it looks like you're already removing, looks like 11 trees and putting 2 back, something like that.
That sounds, yes.
Further questions or comments?
This is the front of the house, just FYI, and this is the rear of the house. Oops, sorry. That's the rear of the house. The other, I think, important thing just to note is we had full neighborhood support, so just wanted to put that out there too.
Thank you. That's nice to hear. Okay, further questions or comments? And thank
you.
you so much.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Appreciate you coming out. All right, moving on to resolution number 2470-2025, the setting of the 2026 meeting schedule. This is a standard practice that the township performs every year. Do any of my colleagues have any questions or comments regarding the meeting schedule at this time?
I trust we confirmed and worked around any recognized religious holidays.
We did. Further questions or comments? Okay, we'll move on to resolution number 2471-2025. This is the renewing of a contract with our township manager and secretary, Dave Berman, for a contract commencing January 6, 2026, and ending January 3rd, 2028. Do my colleagues have any questions or comments regarding this resolution?
I would just very briefly comment that I feel that Mr. Berman has done an exemplary job, and I'm very happy to support his contract renewal and look forward to working with him in the future.
And I agree.
Thank you. Further questions or comments? I would like to add a resolution next week. It's not on our agenda at this time, but we need to add it. The item is a resolution to approve the scheduled closures of Carricung Drive for recreational use, something we authorize on an annual basis. Do any of my colleagues have any questions or comments related to this addition?
Is it going to follow the same general schedule, I guess, as last year with?
Yeah, that's the intent, is just to follow the same schedule unless the board directs us otherwise.
Further questions or comments? Great, so we'll look forward to considering that next week. Also on our agenda is a one-year extension for our chief of police contract. This is agenda item number 11 on our agenda this evening. Do any of my colleagues have any questions or comments regarding this contract extension?
I'm thrilled that we will extend this for a year. The chief's done a great job, and thrilled to have him back.
And I concur with Commissioner Quinn that look forward to working with the chief for another year, and feel that he's done a great job and definitely worthy of the extension.
Thank you. Further questions or comments?
For another year, Chief.
Sounded threatening. Thank you. Any final questions or comments regarding that? Okay. Finally, next week, the board will consider the recertification of the township's 2026 minimum municipal obligation. As a reminder, the 2026 MMO, prepared by our pension consultant, was originally certified by the board in September. However, due to new contractual terms with the collective bargaining unit, the MMOs for both the non-uniform defined benefit and defined contribution plans have been recalculated. The updated figures reflect the new employee contribution rate of 4.6% for the defined benefit plan and the new employer contribution rate of 4.75% for the defined contribution plan, both of which will take effect January 1st, 2026. Do my colleagues have any questions or comments regarding this matter at this time? Hearing none, that concludes our preview of the Monday, December 8th agenda. Any final questions, comments, concerns, anything about the items discussed tonight, or anything for the good of this board at this time? And I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.